Jason Gottfried, who's doing an interview with my grandparents at February 24th, 1990.
Now,
This is my grandmother, and sitting over there is my grandfather.
If they have our names,
Uh,
you have two grandmothers and two grandfathers. What do you need to say whether we are?
why don't you say who you are?
Oh, well, I'm Jason's grandmother, Bertha Strojny.
how old are you?
I'm 67 years old.
Okay. When you were a child, what was your school like?
Well, I lived in the country, and it was a brick school. And we didn't pass the classes until I was about in my 7th or 8th grade, and then we got a new principal that instituted some new procedures.
What was your favorite subject at school?
English.
English. What games did you play?
Well, I played soccer, and she lived out in Mendon, and she lived in a landmark home, and she was a science teacher. And Mrs. Hart was my 1st grade teacher. Miss McCarthy was my 5th grade teacher. Mrs. Moulton was my 4th grade teacher. Teachers for each subject that I wouldn't want to go through them all.
Okay, you don't have to. What kind of house did you live in? Was it like big or small?
It was a huge farmhouse. It had like, let's see, 10 rooms in it, and a sleeping porch and an eating porch. And it was a regular farmhouse with barns in back. And we had 50 acres in Rush. No, not personal pets. We had barn cats, but we didn't have any indoor pets.
Okay. I think I'll ask Grandpa if you.
We didn't do an awful lot on the farm because I was pretty young then. We did do a few chores. We picked up the eggs and fed the chickens. We sorted beans in the barn. We sorted the stones out of the beans. They used to throw them on a big table, and then we'd sort the things out, and then they'd bag them and weigh them and sell them. And we used to pick berries in the summer, pick potatoes in the fall, and we only did it if we wanted to. We weren't forced to do anything. The only thing we really had to do was keep our rooms cleaned up. I wasn't real old at that time, but I had foster parents. My mother lived in the city, and I had foster parents. And they were the ones that owned the farm. It was up in Sibleyville. They owned 100 acres up there and 50 acres in Rush. And we lived there, and we loved it because we had so much land. We could go anywhere and do anything on it. All over, and no one could say anything because we were on our own property all the time. Let's see. I think it was from 1926 to about 1936. It was about 10 years. I could be mistaken. My memory isn't that good when I was a little child, but I think that's about what it was. I went to Rush High School. It started at 1st grade and went through high school. It was just a small school, brick school. I believe the post office is there now, where it used to be a few years ago.
Okay.
Well, then I went to the city of Rochester, and I went to West High School. And I finished and graduated from West High School. I don't even remember. It was I still in school?
Yep.
My senior year it must have been then. My brother was going out with Seal, your
Vince
sister.
was going out with Seal.
Yeah. And I met him at their house. We went to pick Seal up one day, and he came down. I don't remember it, but he does. We went to pick Seal up.
My nieces made one, and they dwelled too long on the subject, and it took forever when they had it on the television. You know.
A tea bag and a cup of water. And while she was there, she blocked everything.
See it help any?
School, Leonard, that's interesting. you went to a Catholic grammar school with nuns. Nuns and priests telling you what to do. I can't say that, you can.
The parochial school, they called it.
All right, parochial school,
Where'd you go then?
St.
St.
Stanislaus.
Stanislaus.
When were you there?
In the 30s, from the early 30s on. I think the late 20s. Could have been 1927, around there.
How bad was the Depression for you?
It was pretty bad because we came from a large family. And I was pretty young. And I didn't understand a lot of things back in those days, you know. But there was, people were out of work considerably, and there were the things that just kept disappearing. You know, things will wear out and they weren't replaced, you know, because nobody had any money back in those days. Until World War II started, then things started to perk up.
When you didn't have any money, what did you do? How did you live without money?
Well, my sisters, they would work housework for $10 a week they got, and that's how we lived on. My sisters used to do housework.
Did you get welfare at all, Leonard?
I remember getting something from some Catholic priest, you know, he dished it out just like, you know, people do now. You know, how they give the gifts to people, you know. So they did that. I remember getting that, you know, this stuff from this. I don't even know, it might have been Whole Redeemers or what.
With me at all. When you live on a farm, you have plenty to eat. I don't know, our clothes, we always seem to have clothes. Maybe we weren't dressed fancy, but we had a lot of things. And of course, I had older sisters. I had hand-me-downs, so it didn't bother me at all. I don't remember it one bit.
How large a family?
Well, there were 3 of us girls living with Morans. My brothers lived with someone else. There were 5 of us.
Did you play any instruments?
Just a second. Okay, go ahead.
Did you play any instruments when either of you were children? Did you go to college? Either?
No, I just took courses at the Eastman, but I never went to college. I took the entrance exam to Brockport, but there was no money in those days, so they accepted me, but I never went. I went to work.
Well, in the service, I started off in Atlantic City, and then I went to Oklahoma. I was there stationed in Oklahoma. I was stationed in Florida. I was stationed in North Carolina, California, Georgia. The last place that I was stationed was in Merced, and that's just outside of Yosemite National Park. It's the place they call Castle Field. That's where they made a movie. Let's see. Could you come? Now, who is the Stewart? Jimmy Stewart. That's where they made a movie.
And Junie Allison.
Now, I was there in January and February. They called the place Merced Air Force Base at that time. And while I was there, they changed it to Castle Field, and that's what it is now. It's one of these B-52 bases. Back, you can see these big earth-moving machines working. You know, working the ground. They were expanding. Here it was after World War II, after all that monkey business and everything, and there they were, expanding that airport. And you know what, I mean, you can figure out and what building that whole place, you know, after World War II.
Were you there for the whole time that you were in the military?
2 months, I was there for only 2 months.
Then where did you go?
from there it was home. I was stationed around, I went to aircraft mechanic school in North Carolina, Goldsboro, North Carolina. And then they sent me out to Oklahoma, Will Rogers Field, Oklahoma. It was a nice place to be, but we were only there 2 weeks and they shipped us out again.
Where did they ship you out to?
Is that when you went to Tampa?
And then they shipped us out to Tampa, Florida, to a replacement center. I was in Tampa for 1 month, and then the second month was in the area at Drew Field, Florida, and from there I wound up in Georgia.
How did you happen to escape going overseas?
Well, I didn't have my GI glasses with me. Tampa, Florida was the replacement center, and I had my glasses prescribed in Oklahoma City at Will Rogers Field, and they didn't catch up to me, so I wound up remaining in the States simply because of my GI glasses. The ruling was they can't send a soldier overseas without his glasses. He has to have 2 pairs of glasses before they can send him overseas.
Didn't they put?
Remember meeting Bertha for the first time?
That was at my folks' house where I lived on Agnes Street.
You remember the details? How did you happen to be there?
Well, her brother Vincent was going out with my sister Seal, and Vincent come over to pick Seal up, and Bertha, that's the first time I saw her. She was there. I remember coming down in the morning. I just got up. I just slept in the upstairs bedroom, and I remember coming down. I was half asleep when I came down, and when I saw somebody new, a young girl, it woke me right up all of a sudden. And that's the truth. That's exactly the way it happened.
You know, that he didn't know Vincent had any younger sisters. It was comical. I don't remember it though.
3 younger sisters.
I remember that.
Any other girls?
I don't remember it. I remember going to the house and picking Seal up, but there were so many people there. Leo was there reading the Sunday paper, and his mother and father. It was all new to me, and I don't think I actually took in who was there and who wasn't, except for Seal. When we left, I think we were going to Niagara Falls, and we were picking her up to take her with my mother and us. We went together. Vince was the only one that had a car. Not everybody had cars in those days. It was funny.
How long was it after you met that you decided to get married?
Good heavens. It was a long time.
Well, we got married in 1943.
He was in service then. But
While I was home on furlough. The war interrupted everything. All our plans we couldn't even make any plans at all. So
When did you leave, Leonard? 1940.
December 15th. It was 10 days before Christmas.
1942.
1942.
42, year before we got married. They went after he turned down his training for being. What were you trained for? For some kind of schooling at Seymour Johnson Field.